Have you heard about behavioral health apprenticeships? They're strengthening the behavioral health workforce in King County and across Washington state. These programs give people the chance to pursue college-credited training as behavioral health technicians, certified peer specialists, or substance use disorder professionals. This innovative pathway allows learning to be embedded in their job schedule, guided by a professional mentor, and all within the convenience of their 40-hour workweek and payroll. Get connected soon to take advantage of their existing employer and apprenticeship support package. Be part of an exciting training movement that opens doors for diverse communities, supports local providers, and makes sure people have access to quality mental health care. Learn more at behavioralhealthapprenticeship.org.
Hi, everyone. This is Heather Venegas, Director of the King County Recovery Coalition, which is part of the Washington Recovery Alliance, and one of your King County Recovery Conversations podcast hosts. I'm here today to express our deep gratitude to our Recovery Day at the Mariners 2025 event sponsors. We are so grateful for your support and contributions and participation in celebrating recovery. Residence 12 Foundation, the Sober Curator, Recovery Beyond, Peer Washington, We Care Daily, AM/FM Healthcare, Evergreen Treatment Services, Hazelden Betty Ford, Fairfax Behavioral Health, Humana, Smoky Point Behavioral Health, Holman Recovery Center, American Behavioral Health Systems, Hurley Media Group, Behavioral Health Apprenticeship from the Health Career Fund, Sound, and King County Behavioral Health and Recovery Division. Thank you so much for making this annual celebration of recovery during Recovery Month possible. Welcome, everyone. My name is Heather Venegas. I'm a woman in long-term recovery, the director of the King County Recovery Coalition, and one of the podcast hosts for King County Recovery Conversations. And I'm excited to be here in the studio with Ty Reed today to hear all about his journey of recovery and the amazing work that he's doing now. So to begin, welcome, Ty. So glad to have you here with us today. And thank you for your patience and kindness in getting us into the studio. It took a minute. And I know wonderful things are worth waiting for, right? I learned
we hope so. I'm really happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me on today.
Wonderful. I thought I would just read your bio to start, and then we'll move right into our conversation.
Sounds great.
Wonderful. Ty Reed is the founder of Recovery Career Services and a state reentry manager for Washington's Employment Security Department. A person in long-term recovery from addiction and incarceration, Ty has dedicated his life to helping others rebuild theirs. He is a national speaker and trainer on recovery, reentry, and second chance hiring, teaches CCAR recovery coach professional courses, and created a corporate recovery coaching program that helps employees and employers navigate substance use challenges in the workplace. Ty's work blends lived experience with professional expertise to bring hope, opportunity, and practical solutions to individuals and organizations. That is so amazing. Ty, can you share a bit about your journey through addiction, incarceration, and recovery, and how that has shaped the work that you do today?
Sure. Thanks for reading that introduction that I totally provided to you. I appreciate that. So yes, my story really starts back in 2007 when I was working as a professional for a division of a Fortune 50 company, and quite frankly, living a double life. Because by day I was this working professional who had a lot of respect in the organization, but my peers had no idea that by night I was an alcoholic and a crack cocaine addict. And I lived that way for a long time until 2012, when I decided to get off crack by switching to meth. Not the best decision in the world, but it was incredibly effective, I got to tell you that. But within a couple of years, I also was unable to do a couple other things, like live inside on a regular basis, hold the job, be present in the lives of my friends and family, and really hold on to any level of self-respect, because I'd become a homeless person on the streets of Seattle. And started to experience over the next couple of years a lot of things that being a homeless drug abuser on the streets kind of comes with, like being arrested and convicted and incarcerated multiple times, being committed to a mental hospital for a little while as a result of my drug use, and then also luckily surviving a couple of suicide attempts. And when I entered recovery in 2016 and started kind of putting life back together, the first thing that I noticed that despite how lucky I had been with education and employment history, that it was very difficult for me to find work with my criminal convictions. As a matter of fact, I was told by multiple jobs that I was by far the best applicant that they had, but they couldn't hire me for 5 or 7 years because my criminal convictions needed to age a bit. So the first job I was able to get was part-time as a janitor making $12 an hour, which was quite a come down from having worked in the corporate world and had multiple positions where I made six figures. So I had to humble myself right away, but I started to think about what the journey might be for people who hadn't been as lucky as I had been in education and employment, and finally arrived at employment being something where I thought I could probably help folks. So in 2021, I opened my nonprofit, Recovery Career Services, and initially was just kind of doing one-on-one coaching for people who were kind of starting their lives over in the same way that I had done. And it's kind of grown from there. I now do some public speaking, as you mentioned. I've authored a book about second chance hiring for human resources professionals. I now also am partnered with the Snohomish County Therapeutic Court, delivering some curriculum for their participants about employment and financial and digital literacy, and also professional networking, and have been able to land what I really call my dream job in a lot of respects, working for the Employment Security Department and getting a chance to directly influence policies and practices for folks who walk into work source offices across the state who have criminal convictions and are looking to find employment. So I feel very gratified and humbled to be able to do all the stuff that I do.
That's amazing. Thank you for your service. What a wonderful full circle story, and to make such a contribution to help others in an area where so many struggle, like you said, like just hit the brick wall or a closed door or get hired. I've had friends who got hired for positions and then were called later when, they went through their background check and were like, yeah, sorry, we can't hire you. Why is employment such a critical part of both recovery and successful reentry from the justice system?
Well, from my personal experience and from what I've seen, employment provides people with purpose. So yes. I'll talk about myself first. There were some early days in recovery when I wasn't really sure that I wanted to feel all the feelings and deal with all the reality of life. Mm-hmm. And quite frankly, having employment at a place where people expected me to show up was really instrumental in me actually kind of staying on the beam. Now, and I don't mean to say that, I'm not trying to imply that I was perfect in my recovery. I haven't had a drink in almost 10 years, but it's been less than that since I, returned to my drug of choice, quite frankly, because early on I was kind of a chronic relapser. I'd go out for a day and then be in a meeting the next day, or go out for a day and kind of jump back on the beam right after that. But having that steady employment always kind of gave me a reason and gave me a hope, even though the first job that I had, quite frankly, I really hated. I couldn't stand that job. I felt like it was beneath me, like a lot of people feel like their entry-level positions that they may have to take as they're rebuilding their lives might be beneath them because of things they've done in the past and success that they've had. But that job really was the best thing for me. So for me, purpose was really important. Some of the things I've heard some of my coaching clients talk to me about also is staying busy. So idle hands and an idle brain in early recovery can be sometimes our worst enemies and tempt us to maybe do things that we shouldn't be doing if we're trying to live a new and different life. So those are the two reasons I think employment is important. Plus, it also gives people a real sense of self-esteem. So many of us who are starting our recovery journeys really have some beat down self-confidence and self-worth.
Yeah.
And in many cases aren't even sure what types of skills or value that we have to offer to an employer. So actually finding an employer who values us and recognizes that we have potential and then provides us with an opportunity lets us grow in our belief in ourselves, in that confidence in ourselves. And that also can be vitally important in early recovery.
Absolutely. Uh, I ended up getting hired by Starbucks back in the day in 1994, and it actually happened because I was in treatment for 4.5 months and was in California, and my mom was coming to visit me, in like family time, and we did a group together, and she was bringing me, she would go to Starbucks near her house and get me a bunch of coffee ground and bring it to me because I was fiending for strong coffee. And, she mentioned to the woman that waited on her, who just happened to be the manager in the store, that I actually was in treatment. Turned out the manager was in recovery, and she hired me for my first job in recovery.
Wow.
So I ended up doing the, 5 o'clock in the morning to 1:30 in the afternoon shift, was getting up at 3:45 in the morning, going to 8 o'clock meetings. And, it did all the things you just said, it kept me busy. It gave me something, to do that gave me structure and helped me feel better about myself, after coming back from a relapse. And, I ended up getting to work for Starbucks for a while and got promoted into different positions, both within the stores and then later in their corporate office. And it was the best thing that happened to me that helped me stay, aside from, all the pieces that I was doing for recovery. I really think that it helped me stay into recovery this time and not relapse. So I am
That's great.
right there with you. Purpose is such an amazing thing. I was really touched to learn about you doing the CCAR recovery coach training and coaching with people as they're going through reentry and employment. And I would love to hear how you bring that in and how you help them find that sense of purpose.
Well, I think that everybody needs to, sense of purpose is very personal for folks, right? Mm-hmm. So typically what I really hope to do when I coach people is to talk to them and hopefully have them think about their skills and their wants in a different way so that it kind of leads them to what their purpose is. I didn't frankly find my purpose until after I had suffered greatly and been through addiction and homelessness and had the opportunity to come to recovery. That's what it took for me. Mm-hmm. And sometimes that's what it takes for people to find their purpose. That might be some of your story as well, Heather. I don't know.
Absolutely.
But, oftentimes people who go through those significant challenges come out of the other side having a much better sense of what it is that they want to do with their lives to help people or to give back. Right. So what I work with people to try to do is really identify that. And one of the basic questions that I kind of ask is, do you want to work with people, with things, or with information? Because that's gonna really give me a sense as to where their head is and where the career direction that we may want to help guide them in might be. The next thing that I like to ask people is, what does personal success look like to you? And have them define that for me. And then the next thing is, what do you do better than anybody you know? Because that can give us some hints as to what they might be good at and help to point us in a direction. So it really is a very kind of conversational thing, much the way that CCAR encourages their coaches to do. I need to just make sure that I say, since we mentioned CCAR specifically, I am not a representative of CCAR. Mm-hmm. I'm simply one of many coaches that they have across the nation who is lucky enough to have received the training from that fantastic organization and that program. But I truly believe in the principles and the values that they espouse, and highly recommend anyone who can connect with a CCAR recovery coach to do so.
Thank you. What are some of the biggest misconceptions employers have about people in recovery or people with criminal convictions?
Oh, there's a lot. I mean, the first one is...
Let us count the ways.
Yeah, the first one is, are they going to steal from me?
Right.
Are my current employees going to mind working next to somebody who has criminal convictions or somebody who's in recovery? What's my reputation in the community going to be if people find out that I'm hiring from these populations? And all of those are pretty much overblown. I'm not going to say that every person in recovery or every person who's leaving behind the criminal justice system and gets a job is successful immediately. But what I will say is what studies show over and over again, and employers who talk about hiring from these populations say, is that when they hire, quite often what they get are employees who are more loyal, employees who stay longer, employees who work harder because they have something to prove not only to themselves but to the employer.
Mhm.
And people tend to be really grateful when they're turned down for opportunities over and over again, and then they finally get an opportunity. They don't want to squander it. They want to take advantage of that to the best of their ability. And so I would just say to employers, first of all, this is not just a feel good, compassionate empathy thing. This is absolutely not charity. It is an equal exchange of value. So the employee is going to bring their enthusiasm and their skills and their desire to grow and to advance, and they're going to get some stuff from you too. They're going to get a paycheck. They're hopefully going to get some benefits. Hopefully they're going to be in a great culture and an environment to grow and develop. But this is not a charity case, and there are definitely business benefits for employers being willing to take a look at these populations.
Absolutely. And I've heard we're like some of the most reliable workforce and responsible. And of course, many of us go on to practice integrity in recovery. It's very important, as well as commitment and being of service and like you said, gratitude. And so I think we are this wonderful kind of superheroes in the workplace, and that we really do show up and don't take a lot of sick days usually, and
Right.
come to work on time and things like that. And that's so wonderful to get that knowledge out there and to really dispel that old idea of what it meant to hire someone who's starting over, who's been formerly incarcerated or has just come out of rehab, or
Yes.
whatever the
Yes.
case may be.
Well, and
Um,
there are a couple other messages that I will deliver from time to time when I'm standing in a room full of employers or HR people. So the first one is, some of the qualities that employers always say that they want are people that are creative and
mhm,
adaptable and can be flexible and have some grit. And if you
mhm.
want to talk about a resilient group of people, I mean, just look at a group of people that have been through it and come through it, right? So
Right.
all of those qualities that employers say they want are absolutely captured in these populations. But the other
Mhm.
thing is, quite often the difference between someone with criminal convictions and someone without them is simply luck. And so what I will often do when I am giving presentations to business people is say, okay, how many people here have ever had a little too much to drink and then got behind the wheel? And a ton of the people in the audience raised their hands. How many people here, when they were over the age of 18, ever got into a physical altercation with somebody? And a number of people will raise their hands. How many people here, before it was legal, might have had a little weed in their pocket or maybe something stronger? Now, not everybody raises their hand on that one, but they get the point. And the point is that quite often it really comes down to luck and location as to whether you end up with a misdemeanor or sometimes felony charge or whether you don't. And every single person makes mistakes. So those two things seem to make a really big difference in the. Pardon me, I lost my screen for a second. Pardon me. Those things seem to make a really big difference in some of the perceptions that employers have about this population. And at this point, what we're really talking about is winning over people's hearts and minds. Washington State has done a really nice job of enacting legislation that changes when employers can ask about someone's criminal background. If for example, for people in recovery, if they have job gaps, if they simply say that they were out of the workplace for a time with a medical issue, then the employer can't ask them anything else about it. So there's some legal protections there already, but it's really the hearts and minds battle of HR managers and hiring managers that we're fighting at this point.
There's so many great things to touch on. I just want to make sure that I include all
Sure.
of the things that, oh, I would love to talk about. a couple of things, and they might go together. The importance of peer support, both in community and in corporate settings, and then success stories of people moving from justice involvement or substance use to thriving careers.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think everyone certainly in the recovery community knows about the importance and the value of peer support. And so, to whatever degree that organizations or individuals can get involved with peer support for folks, that would be great. One of the things that I also spend a lot of time talking about, besides the advantages of hiring people that might have some previous criminal justice involvement, is speaking to employers about how to create recovery-friendly and mental health-friendly workplaces. And in those presentations, I talk about the role that perhaps things like connecting with organizations like the King County Recovery Alliance or the Washington Recovery Coalition. Is that right? Or did I mix it up? I got it backwards. King County Recovery Coalition, Washington Recovery Alliance. So the great things about connecting with those organizations is that they offer a lot of resources and support for individuals in recovery, often at no cost to the employer. And those organizations love to connect with employers. But the other thing that I like to mention is, I had an experience, after I'd been sober for about a year, I went to work for a small manufacturer in sales, and I, at that point, began living very openly in recovery. Literally everybody in my life knows I'm in recovery. My employer knows, my friends and family know, strangers know because I'll show up at a karaoke bar and I won't drink anything. So, everybody, I'm very transparent about my recovery. And one of the things I had the opportunity to do at this small manufacturer was actually become a peer mentor to someone who was struggling with alcoholism. And he had been an employee for about 10 years, and they really liked him, but he was coming to work drunk. And he was coming to work, smelling like alcohol. And they were really at the point where he was kind of on his last chance. And what they asked me to do was, kind of be a buddy to him, kind of an accountability buddy, or be a peer mentor. And I didn't know that's what I was doing at the time. I just wanted to be of service and to help. So we kind of started this relationship, not really a sponsor relationship because he got his own sponsor, but we would go to meetings together, and if it was after work hours and he had something on his mind or wanted to talk about recovery, I was somebody that he could reach out to. And it really turned out to be helpful for about 6 months, and to him, and it was really helpful to me too, because it allowed me to kind of stay involved and engaged with another alcoholic and get a sense of where I didn't want to go back to, which was a great reminder for me in fairly early recovery. And so if companies have folks that are in their organizations who are openly in recovery, that can sometimes be a really great resource for other folks in the company who may be struggling. Now, of course, you've got to put in the proper confidentiality agreements and clear it with HR and make sure that everybody gives consent. But that can sometimes be a great opportunity to put in some peer mentorship in an organization. Or, of course, you can reach out to many of the great peer mentor organizations that are in Seattle, like Peer Seattle and some other ones. So I would definitely encourage companies to look at both those avenues to bring in additional supports to their companies.
What about some success stories of people that you've either worked with or known about that have gone through reentry or substance use recovery and perhaps gotten a job and now have moved into, like you said, that fulfillment and purpose and thriving that can happen?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of them. I'll tell you my favorite success story.
Perfect. That's the one I'd love to hear.
Yeah, my favorite success story comes from a gentleman who I quite affectionately say used to be a community-based freelance independent pharmaceutical distributor. And he's now quite frankly one of the best salespeople that I've ever met in my life, and he's making a lot of money. But the reason why that is something that people don't often think about, but because of what I call survival skills, basically the skills that we were using to survive the lives that we were living before, there's actually a lot of really great transferable skills that we can work into straight and regular employment. So this guy's got great communication skills, customer service skills, negotiation skills. Because of the size of the enterprise he had, he also has some people management skills. I'm going to guess he's also got some inventory and some math skills, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But now that he's on the straight and narrow, he can use all these great skills that he developed doing not so great things in the regular world and make a very nice regular paycheck for himself and really change the trajectory of his life. So that's my favorite story for sure.
Thank you for that. I love it. Ty, what's the name of your book and where can people find it?
Second Chance Hiring is the name of the book. It is on Amazon. It's got a very long subtitle that I don't remember right now. But Second Chance Hiring under Ty Reed on Amazon. Very easy to find. I would love to, chat with anybody who has any questions after they read the book. And of course, chat with anybody in your audience in general about anything recovery or second chance employment related, coaching, public speaking, any way that folks want to connect with me. I would love to do that. I'm also available on LinkedIn, and there's only one Ty Reed on LinkedIn that looks like me. So if you go to LinkedIn and search for Ty Reed, you're going to very easily be able to find me.
And what is your website? If people want to go read about all the offerings that you have and the resources that you have for employers and people with lived experience.
Yes, thank you for asking. The website is recoveryandwork.org. So that's recoveryandwork.org.
Ty, for our last question, I would love to ask, what gives you the most hope right now about where recovery and reentry work is headed?
What gives me the most hope is that it seems like there is an awareness, finally, after a really long time coming, quite frankly, of folks starting to recognize that, people in recovery aren't bad people. People that have had some sort of interaction with the criminal justice system, they're not all bad people. Now, certainly some of that population, not so great citizens, but most of the folks are really just people that made a mistake. And so there really does seem to be a push from both community and, quite frankly, from government and policy standpoint in many, many ways to put in some protections and some additional support for these populations. So that gives me a ton of hope about the future. And again, I feel just so grateful to be working in this field and being able to really help people every single day. I'm a very lucky guy.
Thank you. I absolutely know how that feels. I agree. And I'm grateful every day I get to work in behavioral health and give back to our community. Thank you so much for sitting down with me today, Ty. I am so grateful to learn about this amazing work you're doing and hear part of your recovery journey. Thank you to Orbit Audio for our podcast production and to the King County Behavioral Health and Recovery Division for helping to make this podcast series possible. Until we meet again, be well.